Hi there, Maros. My name is Ellen, and I will be correcting this set of essays for you. I'm very happy to see that you're preparing for IELTS and that you're writing essays for your preparation and getting feedback for those essays. So let's get straight into this, see what you wrote. I believe this is the international marketing essay. So let's take a look at it and see what you had to say. We live in time where everything around us is changing unstoppable. Big role into that plays international marketing, which brings to us new influences from other cultures. Some of us are resilient to adopt new visions of world. On another side, I see people welcoming that. I am trying to watch through pink lenses, and I will talk about that in following rows. Okay, so there are some issues in this paragraph. There are a variety of issues, basically, primarily grammar, also vocabulary, um, and a little bit of coherence. So it wasn't really clear to me. I wouldn't say that this was a faithful rephrasing of the prompt that you had. So it needs a little work. Let's talk a little bit about the grammar. Let's talk a little bit about the vocabulary. And then after that, we'll see what else needed some adjustment. So we live in times, or we live in a time when everything around us is changing unstoppably. A major role in this is played by international marketing, which brings to us new influences from other cultures. Some of us are resilient to adopting new visions of the world. However, I also see people welcoming that. This was a little too conversational for me. I'm trying to watch through pink lenses. So I would have preferred something a little more formal. Something like, in my opinion, I prefer to see this trend rather optimistically. And I will express both viewpoints. I will express both viewpoints with arguments and points supporting my position. Okay, so something like that would have been a little better. Now here, you said that some of us are resilient to adopting new visions of the world. This again, it's not particularly faithful to the task. The task talks about invasion, intrusion, okay? And then when you said people welcome this, it talks about, it being a necessary form of education. It talks about the exchange of language, ideas, and culture. And there's really absolutely nothing of those ideas in this introduction. So it's a little vague, okay? And I would have liked it to have been a little more faithful to the prompt, okay? So that's one thing. And then of course there were those vocabulary and grammar things that we just discussed. Okay, so let's move on. Firstly, culture itself has developed on experiences of our ancestors or religions. Moreover, okay, I don't know how that is relevant to anything. Moreover, there is nub of the matter. Those things cause problems if product propagates is not allowed in particular society. For instance, alcohol is absolutely prohibited in Saudi Arabia. Despite that, marketing offering spirits on internet. I haven't had experience with, but probably they can find it out there. Or another accessible things could raise a number of potentially open-minded population which might change political system what was there for many years. Okay, so basically, Maros, there's a lot of error with your grammar here, okay? It did create a little bit of incoherence, okay? So there were a couple of areas where I just really wasn't sure what you were saying, and I'll tell you what I mean, where I mean. The rest of it I could more or less figure out what you were saying, but it certainly wasn't high in accuracy, okay? So, for example, these two sentences here, I don't know how they're related to anything, related to the topic. Culture itself has developed on experiences of our ancestors or religions. I'm not really sure how that's related to international marketing. Moreover, there is nub of the matter. I didn't know what you meant here at all, especially with the word nub. I'm just not clear. Those things cause problems if product propagates is not allowed in particular. You see, what do you mean here if product propagates? That's completely unclear. And then, for instance, alcohol is absolutely prohibited in Saudi Arabia, despite the fact that it is, marketing of spirits is available on the internet. Okay? And then this was really way too informal. You wanted to say something like, while I have not experienced this personally, it is my understanding that citizens of these countries can locate these products. Here you're getting a little off topic though. That's not the point. The point is that people find this invasive and intrusive. Okay? So whether you have had experience with this or not isn't really particularly relevant. What you wanted to say is that the people of, just to use your example, Saudi Arabia, some people may find the marketing of spirits online or wherever they, that they could have access to, they could find it distressing. Okay? And that this type of marketing in their country is unacceptable. Okay, but what else? What about from a financial perspective? Is there any way that international marketing creates problems from an economic standpoint? Okay, so that's something else that you could have said. But I thought a lot of this was really irrelevant. Let's see. Or another accessible things. Careful with the grammar. You can't really say this. Other accessible things could raise a number of potentially open-minded. This doesn't make sense. Look, a number of potentially open-minded population. This can't exist as an expression. It's just completely inaccurate, okay? And then you're talking about the political system, but you never go into any detail, so we really don't know what you're talking about. It's unsupported, and I don't know how the marketing from international stakeholders could affect the political system. So it's a little confusing, okay? And I'm not really clear on your ideas here. Let's go on to your next paragraph. On another hand, fresh knowledge is singular, it's uncountable, from new cultures, no comma, can lead to better understanding and respect if we would accept that fact. Okay, great. Why? How? Also, without international marketing, our technological progress could stagnate. A nice example is what happened to China. That capital C, that melting pot of West and East cultures, creative brains brings to us a lot of new innovations. Okay, well, you started talking about China, but I'm not really sure what exactly you're referring to here. So how is China a nice example? Are you saying that since it is a melting pot of Eastern and Western cultures, it has brought us lots of new innovations? And what does that have to do with marketing? I mean, it almost sounds like the way you're saying it is that, are you talking about like brain drain? So I'm really rather confused. And part of the problem is that you haven't supported these ideas. So I'm left with some of your ideas, but they're not developed enough so that I can understand what it is you're trying to say. And how it is related to international marketing. Okay. All right, so let's go on here. In my opinion, we have to use marketing more sensitively for the benefit of all mankind. Despite some scary pictures in our minds, there is no better way than to accept marketing as tools and use it for higher aims. Okay, now basically what we typically support at IELTSpodcast.com is a 4-paragraph structure. So this should not be in its own paragraph. This should have been attached in some way to this. You should have kind of gelled them together in a way so that you didn't need a separate paragraph for your opinion. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And then I thought that you could have maybe improved some of the vocabulary a little bit. This felt a little informal to me. Some scary pictures in our minds. A little higher level language would have been a better choice here. So something like, for example, despite some negative prejudices that some may have regarding international marketing, there is clearly no alternative than to use international marketing as a tool for higher aims. So something like that I think would have been better. Okay, in conclusion, if we want to stop marketings, let's fix that. If we want to stop the impact of marketing on a specific culture, we need to ban the internet or other media which broadcast ideas which are inappropriate. I think that will not work because we depend on marketing more than we are able to admit. Okay, so this paragraph, this conclusion here, I don't completely agree with what you included here. Essentially, your conclusion needs to just restate your position. And here is where you essentially settle your position that you think that we need to use marketing for our higher aims. It's for the benefit of mankind and so forth. So this thing about banning the internet, it was something you mentioned up here. So it didn't really fit. I mean, it didn't support your argument. It didn't support your statement. So it wasn't really the appropriate thing to put in here. Okay. So yeah, in terms of what you included in your conclusion, it needed a little work. So, I know that you have a task 1 for us. I think we covered this really in considerable detail. We talked a lot about grammar. We talked a lot about vocabulary. We talked a lot about really all 4 of the grading criteria. Grammar, we talked about task response, coherence, and cohesion. So you should have a good idea about, what's good in this essay and also what needs work. So with that, let's go on to your task 1. Okay, it's the English and Homestay letter, so let's take a look at that. Dear Mr. Braun, you need a comma here. I am writing inform you about my way to London to your family within program English and Homestay. All right, grammatically this needs a lot of work. So you're absolutely right, though, that you need to start a formal letter stating the reason why you are writing. So that was correct, but we do have to fix this language. So, dear Mr. Braun, I'm writing to thank you for agreeing to host me as part of the English and Homestay program. So that's how I would have written it. Okay, then this should have been in the same paragraph. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Martin Potter. I am from Slovakia, and as an English language student, I have the opportunity to study in England. Full stop. Let's see. To provide you a little more information about myself, I like sport and other, I don't understand this, active relax? I don't understand what that means. I like sports and other activities for relaxation. Maybe that's what you meant. I'm not really sure. Okay. I have a few questions, plural, with an S here, about England. I would like to know the address where I will be accommodated. I don't know what happened here. I am interested about the surrounding area because I would like to plan my free time activities, IES. Also, please let me know what is important to know about English culture, especially some habits, no apostrophe. I do not want to do anything inappropriate. One more question. I have heard about the weather there, and honestly, I am a little bit scared with a D of it. People said to me Okay, let's fix this. People have told me that it is somewhat gloomy. Is that true? I think for now, this is almost everything that I wanted to ask you. Okay, so the good news is about this is that you have definitely done a good job of developing. So you included all the things, you asked a lot of questions, so I liked it. Again, though, there's definitely a problem with grammar. The grammar needs work. It needs to become a higher level. Um, and Yeah, because it's either very elementary, and even some of the elementary elements of it have errors. So that's something I want you to kind of work on, um, while you're also preparing for IELTS, really just kind of improving your level of grammar. Okay, so let's take a look here. I would like to inform you about, I don't know what you mean here, my way there. I don't understand that. Let's see. I would like to inform you about my travel plans. Why don't we do that? I am arriving next month on March the 13th. My plane is landing at Heathrow. Let's just pretend. Heathrow Airport at 7:30 p.m. I forgot to ask you before. Will you pick me up at the airport, or should I take a taxi? Question mark here. Time is running quickly, and I'm really looking forward to visiting you and England. I hope we will have new, interesting and unforgettable experiences. Sincerely, Okay. So, you did everything right in terms of the task response. So there's no question about that. I would have done your paragraphing a little bit differently, as I already told you. Other than that, I thought coherence and cohesion was okay. There were a couple of areas where I really wasn't sure what you were saying, but it wasn't anything particularly problematic. For me, the big problems here are with grammar and vocabulary. Those are the areas that you really have to work on. Additionally, there were a couple of places where this was just too informal. This is a letter to a person you've never met before. You know his name, and he's going to host you at his house, but you've never met him. And so for that reason, it's really a good idea to be more formal rather than informal. So for example, what do I mean here? I mean that you don't want to ask a lot of direct questions. And when you do ask a direct question, you want to have the appropriate language. So one example is here. I forgot to ask you before, will you pick me up at the airport, or should I take a taxi? This is very direct, and this is rather informal. So here's a more formal way of saying it. You said, my plane is landing at Heathrow Airport at 7:30 p.m. Would it be possible for you to pick me up, or should I plan to take a taxi? Okay, so would it be possible sounds a lot less direct, and as a result it sounds more formal. Okay, let's see here. I have heard about the weather, and honestly I'm a bit scared of that. People said to me it's depressive. This is all very direct, and it's not formal when it's direct like that. So you want it to be a little more indirect, and said, one more question that I have is with regard to the weather. I have heard that it rains quite a bit and is rather gloomy in England. Is that true? And I guess it's okay to have one direct question like that. Okay, so just changing language a little bit so it can be more formal. All right, so Maros, that is your correction. That's pretty much the end of this feedback. We've covered everything, all of the grading criteria, and what areas need some work. I want to wish you lots of luck. There are, lots of different ways that we can continue to work together. So see if one of them suits you. Like I said, I also encourage you, along with your IELTS preparation, to work on the grammar. That'll really help you. So I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future, and best of luck to you.